I hope you're not sucking out there. This is How Not to Suck TCG, and I'm here with my buddy LDF, and we're going to be talking about the upcoming meta for the Milwaukee Regionals happening pretty soon here, actually. So lots of Pokemon to be discussed. We've got Mega Evolutions in the format now, so there's lots of decks to go over. And if you want to learn how to play the best deck, you're going to want to stick around for the rest of this episode here. I'm PJ. LDF, how's it going? How have you been outside of Pokemon? I haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, thanks for having me on for this episode here. Yeah, I'm good. Just been kind of chilling, doing the content grind. Really been enjoying Mega Evolution so far. It's been a nice, but well, it's not really much of a shakeup as much of it's just nice to play new cards, new decks, and then just kind of have a bit of a new format. But I am excited for Milwaukee. I am going to be in attendance.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited to see what does well. I think I'm already locking in what I'm playing to the tournament. I'm trying to lock in a bit earlier than I do before a regional usually. So I'm pretty excited to hopefully get back-to-back day twos here at Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You've got to pick a deck early now in this format, especially with the meta wide open like it is, and just grind games. You know your matchups, know your ins and outs. I've talked about it on the channel before if you've watched some of my other videos, but absolutely. And another nice thing about Milwaukee is it's spooky season. So this is the North American Halloween episode for regionals as far as that's concerned. So I'm sure that we'll see lots of Halloween costumes. Are you ready for spooky season here?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of October. It's probably my favorite, one of my favorite months of the year. Halloween's definitely my favorite holiday.
Yeah,
so
same here.
Pretty excited for the spooky season. I remember the last time there was a spooky season regional.
Yes.
It was Toronto, I think, 2023.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That one was pretty cool.
Yeah. Dressing up in Halloween costumes, playing some cards, that's the best way to go. So I myself have been getting ready. I'm getting some pumpkins pretty soon, so I'm going to be doing that, and going to try to pick out my costumes. My kids want me to be the Lorax, but I want to be something scarier.
Yeah, I've seen people dress up as the Lorax on TikTok and run around in stores and stuff.
That's like a new trend.
People. Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, let's enough about Halloween, because I know a lot of our watchers like that too. But we want to talk about Pokemon. We want to talk about getting better at Pokemon. So what better than to start out this episode here and talk about the meta coming up. We've seen some online tournaments. We know that Andrew Mahone and the Tricky Gym crew over at Full Grip, they had their tournament also in person with Mega Evolutions Legal. So first off, I want to get your take on the format right now. What do you think? What do you think the best decks are looking at Milwaukee?
So right now, I think without a doubt, obviously Gardevoir is still the BDIF. I don't think anyone's going to argue that.
Yeah.
Gardevoir Jellicent, so far looks to be the best way to play Gardevoir still going forward. But I do think that Gardevoir will probably still be very popular. I can see Dragapult being popular. I know that Psyduck has come out, which definitely is going to make some people not want to play Dragapult, but I think Pult is still good. Charizard and Ceruledge have had a giant resurgence in play, in my opinion. I think those are also going to be pretty successful decks this upcoming weekend. So it's cool to see the meta have a bit more of a shakeup, but hopefully the same old doesn't win. I mean, if we see another Guardy versus Dragapult near in the finals, bro, I don't know, man. I might just crash out.
Yeah. I don't blame you at all. I mean, I think that I think Dragapult is still really good, and people aren't they're kind of crossing that deck off in their minds because so many people have shifted to Gardevoir, right? Gardevoir obviously being one of the best decks, if not the best deck, every format since its release. There's some way to play Gardevoir. It's never dead. It's the Pikarom if you were playing back in the Sun and Moon era of our current format. So it's just got new tricks. There's always new cards to come out. And that's where I want to start to guide this conversation here, is talk about how players can get ready for the new cards to be played in this format. Maybe it's your first regional. Maybe you've been playing regionals for a while and you just want some hot takes on the meta. This is where we're going to get into the nitty gritty here. So I'm going to talk about my personal favorites. Obviously, starting out with the elephant in the room here, we want to talk about Lily's Determination. What a phenomenal card. I mean, what were they thinking printing this card? But it honestly gives so much value to these stage 2 decks. Like you were talking about, we look at Charizard, we look at Dragapult, we look at I don't know, Tesserina EX. Not that anyone should play that. Please don't.
I might pull up with that.
Please don't play that deck. But anyway, I think that this card slots so well into so many decks. And I really do think that if you are not playing at least a Lilies in your deck, you're trolling this whole tournament. So don't be that person and play some Lilies. Now, I want to get your take, LDF, and I want to see, you know, you're the YouTube guy, right? You're the guy that people go to find out how to build their favorite decks. If they're not a meta deck, but we look at how the decks can adapt. So let me get your take on Lilies. How many do you think should be in a deck? You build a lot of decks either live on stream or for your YouTube channel. So I want to get your take.
So, I mean, Lily is without a doubt the best card in the set. And yeah, I mean, every deck I've built so far has played it. The only deck that probably won't play a Lily is Golden Go. But like, honestly, even then, I've seen people play Golden Go with Lily in Japan. So who knows? Even Golden Go might play it. I mean, I think the only decks that won't play it is like Raging Bolt, Sarah Ledge, and Golden Go. But I do think like every deck should play Lily at the very least. Like even decks like Enzorki X, where you don't really aim to do a Lily, I think that card still has a great slot in that deck over something like the Heavy Cyrano or the Arvins or whatever. So I think a lot of decks can really adapt to this card. I mean, it's just such a good early game card. One thing that I've been finding in testing so far for Milwaukee is Lily is very good against Budu because instead, like usually when you get Budu'd, you're forced to like play Research or Iono or Arvin, but those supporters feel a little bit more low value under item lock.
Right.
When you play a Lily, you're seeing 8 cards. So like when you're getting item locked and you play a Lily, you have a better chance of usually setting up a little bit more easily, depending on how your deck is built, obviously, with stage 1s and whatnot. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Lily. I think it is a great card. And I mean, me personally, the deck I'm playing this weekend will most likely be playing 4 copies of Lily.
Absolutely. And you know what? There's been some controversy on the internet. Which ones are better? Iono, Lily, I've seen it. Jake, I'm sorry, your calculator. I understand that it is correct. It's
funny. It's funny, though, because this situation actually came up to me in a recent video I did.
Yeah.
So I did a video on Mega Lucario with Zork EX.
Got it.
And I was in a mirror match against Mega Lucario.
Sure.
I had game, but I had to find a 4-card combo where I needed Ends PP up, Energy Switch, Mega Lucario, and a Fighting Energy.
Okay.
So that was my win con. I could win that turn if I pulled that off. I had triple trade, Pheasantipity, and I whiffed the E-Switch. So I drew into Lucario, I drew into the Fighting Energy, but I whiffed the E-Switch. And I had 2 cards in my hand that I could have played. I had Lily's Determination. Now, keep in mind, I think I had maybe 12 to 13 cards in my hand.
Sure.
But I had a 10-card deck, and I had Iono with 3 prizes remaining.
Okay.
So my thought process was I whiffed the Energy Switch off of drawing like 12 cards in total with the Fez and Zorks. So the E-Switch was the last card I needed, and it was one of the 10 cards in my deck was the E-Switch. So I had about 12 to 13 cards in my hand. So I either had the option to play a Lily's Determination, or I had the option to play the Iono to hit the E-Switch.
Yeah.
So I thought about it, and I'm like, I'm probably better off playing Iono.
Yeah.
So I played the Iono, drew the 3 cards, and I happened to draw into the Energy Switch to win the game.
Nice.
So that actually did come up where I needed to choose between one of those 2 supporters, like which one was better.
Yep.
So it ended up paying off that I played the Iono. But that will be a situation that I'm sure will come up for a lot of people because I actually think the one cool thing with Lily right now is trying to figure out how many Ionos and Lilies you want to play in your deck.
Exactly.
Because Iono is still a very good card. I feel like if you're not playing at least 2 to 3 Iono in your deck still, you're kind of trolling, especially if your deck has ways to come back. I think you should always be playing Iono. So now it's like you want to be playing 3 Iono, 4 Lily. That's what I personally been liking.
Right.
But you know, I don't think decks should be playing 4 Iono, unless probably your Gardevoir or Dragapult.
Yes.
Maybe Grimmsnarl. But
yeah,
it's interesting for sure to see the divide.
And that's the thing is that some people were putting out their list for Gardevoir, and I know that we did see some success from early Henry Chow builds that have been in Henry's Discord, and they were playing 4 Lily's Determination. I know I have been a Guardy bot for a little while, and I've been playing a lot of Gardevoir these past couple of months, just learning the deck. Obviously, it's the best deck, so why not? And I put a lot of time into it. And the first thing I did when the card came out, I put 4 Lilies and took all the research out. Now, I've seen where we're adding some Professor's research back in to give us a little bit extra draw. But yes, exactly. Decks like Dragapult, they don't want to get rid of resources. They just have been doing it because research was the draw supporter card. And the exact point that you mentioned, Grimmsnarl, is a awful deck if it doesn't have any sort of draw, because you can only do so much monkey spread with your Monkey Dory and Frostlass, and the really big win con against that deck is to hand disrupt them. Just get them not to use any cards at all. So yeah, I think Lilies is definitely going to be seen in high counts. Good luck to you, those who are playing your full art Lilies that you've purchased, and you don't want to save those. But if you're a full art enjoyer, more power to you for sure. Now, speaking of new cards in the Mega Evolution set, let's kind of shift the gear a little bit over into what you already talked about, is the Megas. I mean, we're seeing all these other cards that are being splashed into decks. There's Mega Kangaskhan EX, we've got Mega Manectric EX, we've got Mega Venusaur, we've got Mega Lucario, and I've even seen a Mega Absol in there. And
I've seen some people try that out.
So it's like random cards as a just add-on to other decks. Do you think that we're going to see an all Megas deck at the top tables for Milwaukee?
Probably not. I think that the Mega Evolutions right now, they don't have the ability to be that amazing. I think if we're going to see a Mega probably at like the top tables, top 8, it'll be like a support one, like a Mawile or a Mega Kangaskhan, something like Venusaur, Lucario, Manectric. They're very good cards. Right. I think Mega Lucario specifically will be a great deck when Gardevoir eventually rotates and Psychic types get nerfed a little bit.
Exactly.
But, it's hard to say that when we are getting a new Psychic Dark patch in the format next set. So who knows what happens to Psychic types with rotation. But I do think Mega Lucario has potential to be one of the best decks in the format. It's just really, you can't really play it in a field full of Gardevoir.
Exactly.
So I don't think we'll see Lucario do that well in Milwaukee. I'm sure there will be a few people who make day 2 with it. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe one got maybe a top 64 placement. It's just the higher you go in the tournament, the farther you go, the better chance you're going to be starting to hit all these Guardy players.
Right.
But, I do like Enzork with Lucario, but, Mega Venusaur is another deck. I think Mega Venusaur is good, but it's like very inconsistent and it's kind of clunky. Also, I don't think Mega Venusaur beats Gardevoir because they can just sit there and scream tail your Meganiums over and over again, and your deck kind of can't function without it.
Right. With no charm, by the way, too. With no bravery charm, you just 160 and you're dead.
Yeah, it's rough. So I think that the Megas definitely will be good, like at some point. Like we're in the very early stages of their life, but Megas probably will not be the most like played thing in the room. Like I wouldn't be surprised if no Mega Evolution was even in the top 8 at all.
Right.
The only good ones that I think could realistically make top 8 is literally like Kangaskhan, Mega Gardevoir, and then probably like Mawile. Because I've seen Kangaskhan in turbo decks like Raging Bull and Ho-Oh and even Terrabox. And Terrabox I've also been seen playing Mega Mawile. So if any of those decks make top 8, maybe we'll see one of them play a Mega. And then obviously maybe we'll see a Mega Gardevoir in top 8. Yeah. Just because Gardevoir's so broken, why not play the Mega Gardevoir? Though I think that Jelly is still the best way to play it. Mega Gardevoir does give you a really cool late game nuke attacker. That's better than Drifloon because it's tankier, can't lose to Scrapper, and it also isn't able to be one-shot by a Zoroark EX, which is really cool. So I think that Mega Gardevoir probably will be in top 8 if we do see a Mega, and then one of those two like Terrabox support mons. But other than that, the Megas, they're good. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple of Lucarios and Venusaurs in day 2, but I don't expect them to go like super deep in the tournament because I just don't think they can keep up right now with the big decks. Also, with like Goldango and Raging Bolt and Sarah Ledge being popular now, that's also like not a good thing. Like your Mega Lucario deck probably will not have a good time against your opponent's Sarah Ledge deck that's doing like 300 plus damage on the second turn of the game.
Right. Yeah.
Or Goldango for that matter.
Now, I mean, that's a very good point. I don't think that the decks hold up to the 2 prize decks, right? The 3 prize target on their backs is a really big target. Taking 3 prizes, we know it. You know, you and I both played in the tag team GX era where taking 3 prizes, it's pretty easy. Especially with all these decks that can hit those huge numbers, and just losing the game after 2 attacks feels really, really bad. Some people stop playing Pokemon because of it. So we know that we don't want to be at the bottom tables because we just picked a deck that was really cool, new and shiny. We want to know the matchups in and out. We want to be able to play a deck that's consistent and can consistently hit those high numbers. So with all that being said, let's talk about the best decks for Milwaukee, because if you're testing you want to prepare early. You're watching this video. We're getting close to where Milwaukee Regionals is. You want to be able to play the best decks. So my personal takes might be different than yours, LDF. Let's see, what are your top 3 decks that you want to prepare to play against for this tournament, because they're going to be in high numbers.
So the 3 decks that I've put extensive amounts of testing in with at the moment with what I want to play. First one, obviously, Gardevoir. I've tested a ton against Guardy, learning the matchup inside and out with what deck I'm playing. I'm figuring out the best lines, the best board states to have, what to do, what not to do. So obviously, like Gardevoir, like right off the bat, you have to test against it. I still am doing a little bit of testing against Dragapult. Like I still expect that deck to be played. I've been playing my deck with and without Psyduck to kind of compare how easy it is to beat that deck. And then also, Grimmsnarl and Charizard, I guess, are like tied for second or third place. I've done equal amounts of testing against both Zard and Grimm just to kind of get a gauge. I expect Grimm to be a bit more popular. I do expect more Zard than Grimm, though. So I have been putting a little bit more time in against the Charizard matchup, kind of learning the correct board states against Charizard and like trying to like figure out good prize maps so I don't like walk into like a max belt sweep situation.
Right.
So been really testing against Zard. Those are the 3 decks I've put the most amount of time in against right now. But yeah, what about you?
I would say that I'm pretty close to what you have. I mean, I'm not going to Milwaukee, unfortunately, but I am going to be playing a lot of locals and trying to get those championship points at cups and challenges in between going to a regional here in the Mega Evolution format. So what I've been testing against is decks like Gardevoir for sure. Now there's obviously straight Gardevoir with a splash of the Mega Gardevoir in there. And there's also the Charmed Gardevoir, where there's 3 charms in there. But more importantly, I think that you're right, Jelly Guardy is probably the best version of Gardevoir because you do have that item lock with an attack and a tool lock all in one deck. It really just kind of solidifies the archetype. And that's the style of Guardy I would personally play. Now, if you think that Jelly Guardy is going to be good and you're also a Gardevoir player, then you probably want to try playing a different version. But I've also played the Mirror. I've played with some testing clients as well, or not testing clients, coaching clients as well. And even in the Mirror, you're really just going Jellicent, Monkey Dory, Jellicent, Monkey Dory over and over again because the card is so good. You play so many items in that deck. It's just really hard to get out from underneath. So that is definitely number 1 on my list. Now, I like Dragapult, but I think that people know how to play against Dragapult enough now because it's been around for so long. I wouldn't put time and testing into it if you know how to play it already, but I want to bring up another deck. It's Terrabox. I think Terrabox is making a really big comeback right now. So I think that playing against Terrabox, knowing the lines into that deck, because it's not a deck you can always bench snipe. It's not a deck that you can always put behind because they have the Noctowls to find things in the deck that can bring you back. It's a comeback deck a lot of the time, and so is Gardevoir. So if you know those lines into Terrabox, you're going to feel really good in this tournament. I do like Charizard a lot. But I think that what we're going to see is a lot of what I like to call Unga Bunga decks, where you just go super fast, super aggressive. So Goldango, I do feel like is still a threat. I think that putting time into testing Goldango. Now, there's a debate. Do we put the rocks in so we can do a turn 1 attack? Or do we keep Togekiss so we keep a favorable prize trade? That's been what I've seen. But other Unga Bunga decks that I would definitely put in that category are still Raging Bolt. I would still practice against Raging Bolt and Cerulege. All 3 of them, to me, are in the same category. I think we kind of lose the Joltik decks in this format because of Solrock, honestly.
I guess we can talk about that a bit later. But I still think there is a Joltik deck.
A little bit.
Oh,
I don't know.
We good?
Might be on your end. I can hear you, but it's just really low. Okay.
What the heck?
It's coming back now. It's there.
Okay, we're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was gonna say, there's actually a Joltik deck still that maybe we can talk about this a bit later, but there's still a Joltik deck that I think is actually not a bad play for this weekend.
Right. Yeah. The Joltik Goldango is still a deck, for sure. We've seen Joltik Raging Bolt in the past. That's another
deck. That doesn't.
that's not a real deck.
No.
But yeah, I mean, I played a lot of Joltik Goldango at Cups, had some success. You know, I got a couple top fours with that deck, and the deck is really good.
Yeah, it
Even
is.
with Precious Trolley in the deck. And that's where we've seen, again, decks like Goldango go to Precious Trolley or Prime Catcher. They become this draw engine deck. It's very linear, doesn't have too many lines. It just pushes something up and attacks for an almost unlimited amount of damage or enough to get you at least two prize cards. So where these decks are in my mind are all lumped into one category, but I think there will be a lot of them because it's a pretty low to the ground deck to pick up, especially if you're newer to the game and you want to learn how to play Pokemon better. It will definitely get you some wins if you sequence the deck correctly and play it for at least a week. But I think that's the other deck that I would talk about. Now we're talking about these fringe decks here. So I know that there's personally some fringe decks, and we'll call them cringe decks to some people, but I think that going into Milwaukee, Control might actually see a bigger share than we've seen in the past. The meta share looks pretty favorable if you're playing a Control deck and you know how to pilot it. And the other fringe deck, which I absolutely despise, and I think that it's a terrible deck and no one should ever play it, is Alakazam.
I knew you were
but
going
I
to
do
say
think
that.
some people will play that deck.
Yep. That deck, honestly, like Control is. I think we're still kind of in the early stages of figuring out if Control is actually real. I know it's been doing good in online tournaments, but online tournaments is like a different beast. There's like open deck lists.
Yep.
I would argue the players are not as potentially skilled as at a regionals.
Right.
But Control does have potential to come back in this format. I think the addition of Psyduck and learning alternate win cons with Sudowoodo now against Monkey Dory is actually very good for the deck.
Yeah.
But I am not sold on Control yet. Alakazam is a very funny deck, but it does lose to Gardevoir and it does lose to Dragapult. But it honestly beats mostly everything else in the format. Like, it's actually a fairly reasonably good deck.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to brick that deck. I know people, like, everyone would comment about Alakazam or whatever on Reddit and be like, this deck is so broken. And then someone comment, loses to Iono. But I'm like, if you play the Alakazam deck correctly, you shouldn't lose to Iono, because if your board is Dunsparce, Serendipity, who cares if you get Iono? You're still going to be seeing, like, 13 cards off of an Iono. So, like, the Alakazam does not lose to Iono. Like, unless you're literally, like, in a really bad spot, but like for the most part, you don't lose to Iono with that deck.
Exactly.
Like,
now,
the deck is actually good.
I was going to say what you do lose to, because I am an Alakazam hater. You lose to decks that play Cornerstone. You lose to decks that play Mist Energy. You lose to
You lose to decks that play Mist. You lose to Charizard.
You lose to Charizard.
I think you got to tech a enhanced hammer in Alakazam. If you're actually going to play this weekend to Milwaukee, you should at least be playing 1 to 2 copies of Hammer to deal with Mist Energy, because then you can beat Crustle, and then you can also beat Charizard pretty easily with the enhanced hammer.
Exactly. And honestly, that's a great point. Crustle is a deck that not many people are paying attention to, but I've seen some. I mean, there's been online success with Zoroark as its partner, with Cornerstone Ogerpon, again, another Alakazam counter. Now, decks can definitely get around this card, and there's definitely ways that you can beat a Crustle Cornerstone deck. It is not the best deck in format, but it is a very sneaky deck. It's a very sneaky play for regionals if nobody's expecting it. So that's something that you should note and be aware of. Maybe practice a game or two against it. Load up tcgmasters.net and throw the deck in there into a blender and see what happens. But some people might be on these random, again, control style decks, some walling decks. But you did bring up another Pokemon that I'm really interested in when it comes to these off the path decks, and it actually won the last regionals, and it's Zoroark EX. And Zoroark EX is probably one of my favorite Pokemon in the format right now. Trade has been so good and been in so many other decks. We know that Tord, one of the best players in the world, is going to Milwaukee and has put out some tweets on X alluding to a new deck coming into the format that he is creating himself and piloting. And I would not be surprised if he doesn't go back to his roots and play some Zoroark with some trade action, but I do think that Zoroark is very well positioned. I think a lot of these dark decks in a field of Guardy are going to be really well positioned going into Milwaukee. So I want to kind of push the brakes and tie it all together here because it is spooky season and there's a lot of dark decks out there. So honestly, number one for me is going to be Zoroark. There's so many different ways that you can play it. There's so many different partners that you can put into this deck. Draws a ton of cards in combination with lilies that we've already talked about. You can play it with Cornerstone. You can play it on its own. You can play it with Toadscruel. You can play it with Crustle. You can play it with Blaziken. Who cares? I mean, you can put this thing in anything. It's like Frank's hot sauce. So what do you think about Zoroark in this format for right now?
I think Zoroark is definitely a solid deck still. I will say, though, the rise of stuff like Sarah Ledge is actually really bad for the deck. Sarah Ledge just destroys Zoroark. Like, it's, like, pretty unwinnable.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you want a deck that consistently beats Gardevoir, Zoroark is probably the best deck you can play. Because even something like Charizard is still easy to beat, thanks to Mew EX being a very good attacker in that matchup.
Right.
Charizard is also a matchup I think Zoroark has to worry about. That matchup doesn't seem very good because Zoroark has to two-shot you while Charizard can like use Dusknoir against you, and eventually they get to the point where they can sweep through your Zoroarks.
Right.
If I was going to play Zoroark, I would probably have to play it with some kind of lock card like Toadscruel to stop retrievals, Cornerstone, or even like Crustle. So I think Zoroark is still a pretty decent deck, but it's one of those decks where you have to basically only hit the top decks in the room, like the Dragapults, the Grimmsnarls, and the Gardevoirs, and you want to basically dodge everything else, because that's like the issue with the deck. It has like some bad matchups. Raging Bolt, Sarah Ledge, Charizard, I think is not great, like I said. So it's got a bit of polarizing matchup spread, but it's still a good deck. It beats Gardevoir very consistently, which is a very good thing.
Exactly. Now, you talk about Charizard, and honestly, I think that that's one of the other best dark decks in this format. There's a lot of good Charizard lists floating around there. A lot of people have their Metafy going with master classes because Charizard right now in this format with lilies added brings so much consistency back to the deck. Between that, maybe adding Pidgeot back into your list because it's not a threat anymore on the board, or a liability rather. It's such a good deck. Accelerating energies and doing more damage, plus Max Spell in here. We can play it with Reset Stamp potentially if we wanted to. You can even play it with Crystal if you want to play a Terra version of Charizard. There's all these different lists. I do think that the best lists are running just either a straight Charizard or Charizard Pidgeot right now for sure. But the inclusion of Psyduck,
I'm pretty high on Charizard for this week.
Oh yeah,
this is the deck personally. Like I've been testing a few different builds of Charizard because I'm honestly probably going to play Charizard to Milwaukee. This is the deck that I think is probably the most well-positioned, and Charizard I think will give me the best chance of making day 2 while also still doing good in the tournament because I think that Zard is just so well-positioned right now. And if we do see a bit of a decline in Dragapult, that's always a good thing for Charizard. But I will say this with Charizard, though. I think the Pidgeot build is still very strong. But I still, in testing so far with the Charizard Pidgeot deck, I've still been struggling a little bit into Gardevoir and Dragapult with the Itchy Pollen and the Frillish because it is still hard to get your birds out under item lock. Even if you play a Pidgeotto, like you have to play double TM Evo. I don't know. I find that Charizard still struggles to set up a little bit against Pult and Gardevoir. In my testing, it hasn't been a perfect solution, but I do think that Charizard is definitely in a position to do well this weekend for sure. And I'm a big fan of Charizard for this tournament. I think that it's 100% most likely what I will be playing. I've been testing out a bunch of different variants of the deck, also all the different Pidgeot builds, the Dusknoir build, and then the no Dusknoir build. So there's definitely a lot of room for improvement on how you can make a Charizard deck right now, which I think is really cool. But I think Charizard is like a great deck for this tournament. It's something that I'm excited to try out.
Yeah, I mean, you have so many good matchups. Plus, you've got the Chi-Yu for any of the harder matchups. You've got a single prize attacker. You've got Monkey Dory. You've got your Frillish, possibly. You could put Klefki in there. You've got Mist Energy. There's so many tools that it can utilize. Just like Zoroark is able to play so many different things. If you're honing in on a list, get a really solid 60 going, and then just swap out a few tech pack cards, and that's what you should be doing if you want to be playing any deck for Milwaukee or any regionals, is just lock into an archetype and then test a couple of cards, see if they're good against the meta, run it on the ladder a couple times, play against your friends. And Charizard, honestly, to me, so far in testing, has been one of the best decks. I've even been playing, I think Oscar Madsen posted a Charizard Dragapult list recently on their Metafy, and I've been playing that, and it's super good.
Charizard Dragapult's another deck that I've been putting quite a bit of time in with. I think that deck is pretty underrated. A lot of people have been telling me just to play Pidgeot Charizard, but like I said, I haven't been consistently finding the deck to be as good as I thought it would be, because Lily is really good.
Sure.
But when you just sit there and take like an Itchy Pollen to the face or a Frillish to the face for like 2-3 turns, you're not really like, it's still tough to advance your board with that deck, I find.
Right.
Like you have to get really lucky with how well you're drawing. So I'm still not sold on those builds yet, but Poldzard specifically, I have been actually really liking, because it's really not like under item lock. As long as you're drawing Dracloaks, like who cares? Because you can also set up a Dragapult and then late game sweep with Charizard.
Exactly, and you play Gust and you play Stamp in the list.
I've actually been Stamp is interesting. I think that Stamp is good, but I've been thinking about other aspects also.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that there's lots
two
of
others specifically that I think is really good in that deck.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, as far as that's concerned, there's a lot of different ways that you can play it. Pulsar is still very good, and then the last one I want to talk about for dark decks is going to be Grimmsnarl, because this deck has actually made quite the resurgence in online events, and it's not just 1 or 2, it's a lot of these bigger online tournaments that it's at the top tables, it's at the first seed, second seed going into a lot of these. Might not be winning everything, but it's definitely up there, and it's in higher numbers too. So what's your take on Grimmsnarl in this format?
Yeah, this is another deck that I'm pretty high on for Milwaukee. Another deck that I've, been considering bringing to the tournament, because I think Grimmsnarl gets a lot better now with Lily. It's just a more consistent early game card, good in the late game. My issue with Grimm still is, slight consistency issues in the mid to late game. But the deck is really good, and the fact that we are seeing it do so well in bigger tournaments is a bigger deal in my opinion than like, random guy winning with like funny little rogue deck in like a 100-player online tournament. When it's like 200, 300 people in an online tournament and Grimmsnarl's getting second place, like that tells me the deck is better than people are giving it credit for. I think Grimm is definitely in a prime position to make a big comeback going into Milwaukee. Wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe like top 5, top 6 most played deck in the room. Yeah. It's a very strong deck. It is a little bit harder to pilot because there is a lot of math involved, a lot of damage counter placements. You have to you have to think ahead when you're playing that deck. So like, it's not just a deck you can just pick up and do well with. You actually have to you have to know what you're doing. You have to know how your game is going to play out, because like, again, there's so much math involved and stuff. But yeah, Grimm's great, and a deck that I've been really enjoying trying out in this format, because I think the deck is well positioned and it's primed to make a comeback for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, between Lilies, I've seen Tatsugiri added, so you get that Lilies consistency. We see Shaman in a deck that you don't see Shaman in too many decks, but this has a slot for it at least, and it feels better to have that bench control and bench support that you need in this format, with Wellspring, Ogerpon, Screamtail being huge in the format for sure. Those are some decks that I would definitely want to watch out for and playtest against. So lots of spooky decks for our spooky tournament. So what I want to do is I want to talk to you about one quick tip for the community here on going to a regional. And that's deck building. So we've been talking a lot about decks and text that you can put in your decks. So what would you give as advice to somebody going to a regional on how they should build their deck for this format?
So I think that if you're going to this regional and you don't know what you want to play yet, I would definitely just look into a very straightforward and consistent deck. You don't have to pick up Gardevoir, because that's obviously a harder deck. Even Dragapult, Grimmsnarl, something like Charizard, Ceruledge, Goldengo. What other turbo decks exist? Joltik Box, Jengo, stuff like that. Those are all decks that, at a face value beginner level, I think are a little bit easier to pick up with and do well with. I think also for this tournament, if you're trying to make adjustments to your deck with the new cards,
Mm-hmm.
I think the main one is just kind of figure out if you want to play Lily and if you want to play a heavy count of Lily. I would say this, like Gardevoir, if you're somebody who's been playing Gardevoir for a while and you just immediately just put Lily in your deck, call it a day, and swap out the researches, I would say this. I think Lily is a better card in the Jellicent Gardevoir deck than in the other variants of Gardevoir. Because like
Right.
again, when you're playing Drifloon or you're even like playing Fluttermane or like the Triple Charm Screamtail package, I think you're still probably better off playing like a few researches still because you want to be dumping energy in the discard pile. You're not doing that very often with Lily. So like just kind of know like you don't just put Lily in your deck just because it's a good card. Like not every deck is going to play it. Like I said, you don't put Lily in Goldengo or Sarah Ledge because those decks don't need that card. You still just kind of want to still find the right balance between your supporter count. Like I said, if you're somebody who's playing Gardevoir this tournament, you just added 4 Lily to the deck and swapped out your researches. Then you're like, oh, my Drifloon Guardy deck is no longer hitting consistent Drifloons like turn 3 or turn 2 now
Right.
because I have no research anymore. Well, then you want to reevaluate your list. Maybe just play 2 Lily and then play 2 or 3 research instead, which I think is probably a little bit better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
just kind of know the split you want to play. And don't just play a deck because you think it's fun. In my opinion, like, Alakazam is a deck that I'm sure we'll see a few of in day 2, but I don't expect that deck to like do that great. Or Lucario is another deck where I would expect to see a couple in day 2, but I don't expect the deck to go very far in the tournament. Like if you're going to Milwaukee to have fun, that's fine and dandy. If you're going to Milwaukee to make day 2 and make money, like definitely I would just say look into just a good deck that everyone is agreeing on right now as a consistent, solid contender in our format.
Exactly.
Play the deck, practice it a little bit, learn your matchups, and it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Easy day 2.
Listen, good decks are good. That's weird. It's a weird concept that people...
It is weird, very weird.
Some people like to try to break the meta, try to do something different. I'm one of those people. I always want to find like the play that nobody's thinking of because that's the fun part of Pokemon. But honestly, if you're trying to win, I know a lot of people might be teching for you and learning how to play against your matchup, but the decks are good because they're good. And that's why they're up there. That's why people are playing against these decks. And don't think that you can drop a deck because it's just, everybody knows how to play against it. Everybody else will be playing it. The mirror is awful. That's what's going to get you those high placements. That's why you play the deck, because it is good. So that is my my lesson to people that are listening out there, is that if you want to play a good deck, just play it. Don't lock into a deck, stick with it. Don't drop it because you think something else could be better or you found the play. You're not going to know how to play the lines correctly. You're just going to have a bad day if you want to win. Now, if you want to go have fun, pick a fun deck and go play Alakazam or something. But just don't go with expectations for yourself to win the tournament if you're not playing a good deck. So with that being said, imagine a world where you're already at Milwaukee and the graphic comes up. What are the top 5 decks you think are going to be on that day 1 graphic for most played decks and highest counts in day 1? What are the top 5 decks?
So definitely, I would say Gardevoir probably will be number 1. I could see Charizard be number 2 or 3. Dragapult probably also top 3. I could see Dango be number 4. And then number 5 would probably be either Grim or Raging Bolt. I think Raging Bolt is a worse deck for this tournament overall than it was before, but I think Raging Bolt is still like everyone plays that deck because it's like Raging Bolt. It has a bit of a Stan army, so I wouldn't be surprised if Raging Bolt's on the graphic in like the top 5. It's either Grim or Bolt in my opinion. Yeah. I could maybe see Sarah Ledge there, but that deck is a little bit too new where I don't think enough people are going to pick it up. But I do think Sarah Ledge will be on the first page. I just don't think it'll be like top 5. Yeah. It's either Grim. It'll either be Grim or Raging Bolt. I maybe could see Terra Box, but that's like another deck that I think people are not as invested in right now as before. Yeah, I would say I'm with you on Guardy for sure. I think Guardy will definitely be number 1. I think a lot of people will be still on Raging Bolt. I think Raging Bolt might even come in second place. I would even honestly say that Charizard might be the 5th one. So I don't know, man. You got to remember, Charizard is popular. It is popular. And there was a time where Charizard dominated the game. That's true. I don't know. Charizard will 100% be number 2 or 3. There's no way it's not. I just feel like not enough people have their ear to the ground with Charizard, and they haven't picked it back up. So going into Milwaukee,
Because there were, if you look at the registrations, there were a lot of late bloomers. The registration was open for a while. So I think that we're seeing a lot of newer players that are just trying to get into the game that go, and they haven't played in a Charizard format. So that's where my brain goes, okay, well, maybe a lot of good players will play Charizard, but I don't think that it'll be a high meta share that you'll have to worry about hitting Mirror too many times. So that's where, like,
I don't know, that one's tough because I don't know, man. Charizard, it's
good.
looking pretty good, man.
Oh, I agree.
A lot of people like their Charizards.
And I got my little guy over here that's going to be really good with Charizard eventually.
Gengar. Yeah, 100%.
But that's next format. We're talking about this one. So top 5, definitely Gardevoir. I'd still say Raging Bolt, and then I think Dragapult right after, because a lot of people are still high on Dragapult. Then I would say, honestly, I think Terrabox would be in this top 5. I think people are really into it. And the only reason I say that is because you can play it as Terrabox, but you can also play it as EVBox. So there's a lot of variation in the Terrabox that they might all lump into one, and that's what builds up the graphic. And then, like I said, Charizard's still up there for me. But yeah, I'd still say we're pretty close to the format overall. The only other thing I'd say that might make top 5 graphic is going to be Grimmsnarl, because people were still really hot on that deck. They invested in Grimmsnarl, and then it just fell off the face of the earth. So people are sleeving up their lilies, getting ready to play this deck all over again to beat the biggest deck in the room, which is Gardevoir. And it's not a great matchup for it. So as far as that's concerned, I think that that's what we'll see in the top 5 graphic for sure. So any other fringe decks that we didn't talk about? I know we did a couple of fringe decks. What do you think is going to be a standout deck that might even make top 8 in your opinion that we've seen?
So top 8 there'll be Gardevoir in top 8. I'm sure somebody in the Henry Chow crew, a couple people most likely be in the top 8. I can see a Terrabox making top 8.
Sure.
That's like a deck that I think is a good play for this tournament. I think enough good players will play it where somebody will have a good enough run to make top 8 with it. So I think we'll see a Terrabox top 8. We probably will see a Charizard or 2 in top 8. I didn't think that would happen at Worlds, but I mean, Worlds, we did have a couple Zards in top 8. So I can see one Zard at least being in top 8 this time. I'm sure somebody will make top 8 with Polnor. Broken deck. Golden Go and Sarah Ledge are the other 2 picks that I have right now. I don't know which one will have a deeper run. Sarah Ledge is definitely like the better deck for this tournament, but Goldengo still has its fans. Goldengo is still a very strong and powerful deck. It's tough between Goldengo and Sarah Ledge. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those 2 decks also made it into the top 8. And I'm interested to know if it'll be Goldengo Solrock or Goldengo with Togekiss/Esurge Pro.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see a Goldengo in top 8 either, or Sarah Ledge.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the downside of Ceruledge is I realize that the Mew tech, anybody that's playing Mew EX can use Ceruledge's second attack and just knock it out in one shot.
I don't think it's that bad. Like, as long as you Briar your opponent, it's
That's
actually
true.
not bad. Like,
Briar
if you're playing against
gross.
like if you're playing against Gardevoir and you go take knockout with Solrock, and then you go take knockout with Sarah Ledge, you go to 4, they go Mew, kill your Sarah Ledge. You can still probably take Mew out twice to win the game, or you can set up a Briar play to just win the game that way. Yeah. So actually, while I think Mew is good, as long as Sarah Ledge takes the first couple prizes, the Mew EX, like, every turn play actually isn't as good as it would have been because Sarah Ledge will either keep up in the prize trade at that point, or Sarah Ledge will just set up a Briar play. But I think Mew is annoying for sure. If Gardevoir sets up before Sarah Ledge takes a prize, you probably lose the game. But yeah, I think Sarah Ledge. Also, you have Legacy Energy.
Sure.
If you go Legacy Sarah Ledge, they Mew you for 1 prize. You just go, okay, thank you, Sarah Ledge for 2. Oh, I'm at 2 now. I just need boss for game, or if you Mew me again, I win. So I don't know. I'm not high on that, but I do think it's annoying. I'm more concerned about Mew into Charizard because your early game with Zard is a bit slower, so you actually give time for Gardevoir to set up. And then by the time you take a couple prizes, you're eventually going to lose your Zards to Mew EX. Like, even if you go down to 3 prizes, Mew can just go double Monkey Dory, Burning Darkness knockout. So it's a little tricky. And also, like, in the early game, if you lead with Charizard, Guardy will go, like, Mind Bend against you, and they'll force you to find switches. Like, So that's one of my also big issues with playing the Zard Pidgeot deck right now. Is your Charizards are more susceptible to Mew and Mind Bend. Where the Dragapult variant, you can always go into Phantom Dive that turn. As long as you set up a play where you can Dragapult for 2 prizes, you're fine. Because usually what'll happen is you go Phantom Dive, and then they'll go Mew EX, take 3 because you'll have a Dracloak in play. They'll go take 3, Phantom Dive you, usually at that point you have to finish the game off with a Charizard.
Right.
But yeah, I think that Charizard's biggest issue is Mew EX for sure. That's been my biggest concern about the Guardy matchup and why it hasn't actually been as good as I thought it was, is because dark Pokemon like Charizard are good, but when they can copy Burning Darkness against you, the matchup actually becomes a little bit more difficult.
For sure. There are some other fringe decks. I know that we can talk about the Jungle Dumpin' Venusaur EX. We saw it do well, but the other deck takes a hard loss, unfortunately, to that we didn't talk about is Cynthia's Garchomp. Now, I personally was playing a lot.
I like this deck, actually.
Yeah, this is a deck that we haven't talked about yet here in the episode, but I put out a video last week about it, and it's been doing really, really well for me in testing against some of the top decks. It does decent. I mean, I would say it's probably 55-45 against Guardy. So it's not awful. Those are good numbers. And it does really well into everything else, except for Venusaur. Even though it has a decent matchup into Venusaur if you play Neo Upper, because you can just one-shot the Venusaur EX and call it a day. Lucario, it's a field day against Lucario.
It's basically, okay, so my hot take on Garchomp.
Yeah.
I actually think it's a good deck.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think it's going to be very popular, but I actually do think the deck is good. If you want to play Garchomp, this is a good tournament to play it.
Exactly.
I think it's actually just flat out a better Lucario deck.
Right.
Because one, you don't have a 3-prizer, so the prize trade is, the prize map is not as bad.
Right.
2, you don't lose to Gardevoir.
Yep.
And 3, you're basically a bigger version of Lucario. You have more HP with the Power Wave. Nobody's playing Tool Removal right now at all.
No.
Even Goldengo is cutting it. The only deck is Dragapult, but that matchup seems free anyways.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you do basically the same amount of damage as the Lucario anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Garchomp, I actually think is a good deck.
Yeah, I think that if we get somebody that pilots it really well, we could see it in top 8 for sure. Spiritomb is a tech that people are sleeping on because you've got a 400 HP Pokemon. If it gets hit,
Spiritomb is really good,
and it doesn't get knocked out, pretty good.
If your opponent forgets about Spiritomb, you actually win the game most of the time with it. I actually find Tomb is really good against Charizard, and it's good into Guardy.
Oh yeah.
You can against Guardy, you just let them hit you, and then you retreat into another Garchomp.
Yep.
They hit you, and then you go boss Spiritomb, kill Gardevoir.
Yeah, because
it sucks you don't hit for weakness, but
in that matchup, they're trying to play for the Devo play, right? They're trying to Devo you, so they're pushing damage, and then you just slap Spiritomb down and go, good game, I guess. Kill their Gardevoir with a single prizer. It feels real bad. And that's my hot take on Garchomp. But yeah, I mean, I think that we could see it if somebody gets behind it and pilots it really well. Good luck to you. I wish you the best of luck, and I hopefully see you in top 8. But I will be watching stream, so make sure you're checking out stream. Hopefully you're on stream here. They love to put you on there.
Yeah.
So
hopefully. I was on stream last in Vancouver.
Yep.
So hopefully we can run it back with another stream game.
Perfect.
I don't know if Wancho's casting, but if my boy Wancho's casting, bro.
Yep, that's right. All right. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know it's been a while since we've been together doing one of these things, and hopefully we'll have you back here on the channel on How Not to Suck.
Yeah, I'd love to do more of these.
Absolutely. And we'll have you anytime. So where can the people out there watching find you and everything that you do for Pokemon?
So you can find me on YouTube at LittleDarkFury. Post a lot of Rogue Decks daily, Mega Evolution content. And then also you got my second channel, LDFPTCG, where I post more competitive, focused content. I actually have a lot of videos going out this week talking about my opinions on Milwaukee Regionals. I'm going to have top 10 best decks in the format. I uploaded a tier list video ranking all the decks. So yeah, if you want to hear all that, you can check out my second channel also. For sure. And we love to see it. We love your content. And again, love having you here. Thanks so much. And thank you guys for watching here on How Not to Suck TCG. I'm PJ signing off for this episode, but we'll catch you next time.